moved to a segment called Guac with Dr. Nacho. It is awesome content. It is not CE. So if you want to prevent burning your nachos, if you want to make more money, you want to be more profitable, watch in. If you want CE, don't watch in. So don't watch in. It's not CE. If it's not CE, it can't help you. So you may as well not watch in. You better turn it off. You do not want to hear what these people have to share next. So my awesome friends, advisors, fellow dentisting humans, they can come on screen and they're going to introduce themselves. Awesome. So I have the theme of this, guys, is basketball. How to be better at dentisting basketball, because dental school's like, we'll just teach you how to dribble and maybe we'll do set shots from the 50s, even though nobody's taking those shots. Also have this hoop behind me. We're going to tell this story in shirts. And Rob Montgomery, I'm going to introduce everybody in a second. He might have a home field advantage because I think this whole story could be told in shirts. So I bought this yesterday, Destroyer of Worlds. So this is the Flyers mascot. So if you mess up your dental deal, it can destroy your world. Another one here that happens in dentistry a lot. Rob and his team are amazing dental focused attorneys. And sometimes they have to go against a whole team of attorneys, much like Rocky IV. Okay, so Rocky IV, they're Rocky IV. And Brandon and Ariel, fine. I did it, not for me. And Rob, here you could be happy. Here I have one Eagles, and the Eagles is a good example because their team leadership is off. But I want to end with my favorite team, perennial champions, and just classy as could be, the Villanova Wildcats, where I went to school. So this story's through shirts. Now I'm going to let you guys just go around and introduce yourself, and I'm going to get in the moment to be part of this thing. So I'm going to let Rob, you start, and you guys just say who you are and how you help dentists not burn their nachos in their dental life. I'll start with Rob.
Thanks, Paul. Hello, everyone. My name is Rob Montgomery. I am an attorney. The law firm of law offices of Robert Montgomery, better known through our URL is yourdentallawyer.com. And we help dentists with business transactions, real estate matters, employment, and HR. I actually, Paul, am a Temple grad, not a Villanova fan, but I'll still continue to be your amigo anyway.
I'll jump in there real fast. Introduce ourselves. So I'm Jared Duckett, Duckett Ladd Dental CPAs and Advisors, a full service CPA firm that loves jumping in and helping dentists all across the journey, from day one to D1 all the way till selling your practice and achieving your legacy and retiring. So love helping dentists get better every single day.
I'm waiting to see if Paul comes back. If not, then I will ask him where my Kansas City Chiefs t-shirt is. He's already given me grief about that, but I'm sure he doesn't have one. I agree with Jared. I mean, we kind of look at the business of the dental entrepreneurial journey as kind of having a starting point and ending point. And, we try to find ways to add content, produce content, have some service offerings and products that try to help you along the way. And a lot of times partnering up with people like Rob. So happy to be here.
Also, I had to get in the mode for this and pick my favorite basketball player who I modeled myself after. I went yesterday with the monitor to get this. So here it is, starting point guard, Maurice Jeter, 76. So they did not have the Irving jersey in my size, which was my favorite player, but really it's the point guard. So we're going to talk about your dental basketball team. This is a child's basketball, not a regulation one. And what I asked my amigos here to do is to share real value, actionable takeaways, not total world domination, it's great to have a vision on top of your vision while you have your mission, things that we can talk about. So I'm going to go to my playbook here and we're going to interview a dental focused attorney, 2 dental focused accountants. This is the stuff you don't hear in dental school that's so important. So you just watched 3 hours of amazing clinical CE, but just to set the stage for you guys, we're talking about making decisions with your mind, your words, your hands to develop this dental core. And the things we're going to talk about are 4 major transition points in the life cycle of a dentist. 4 major transition points: finding your first job, buying your first practice, hiring your first associate, and selling your only practice. Because all of these guys and me work in the practice transitions world, and most dentists only ever purchase one practice, and that's okay. So let's start with Rob. We're going to talk about a positive opportunity, something they see as a valuable resource or a good thing about this world, but also where to avoid this, where to avoid feeling like this on the inside. Mr. Grumbly, he's always here with me. Where to avoid burning your nachos. So Rob, I'm going to go to you with finding your first job. Where do you see this positive opportunity, potential, but also where should dentists look out? What should they look out for?
Sure, Paul. Well, the obvious one is finally you're making money. So it's an opportunity to start paying down loans in many cases, and to make a few bucks. But also, this is where you start to learn how to be a dentist from a clinical standpoint and really from a business standpoint. And it's an important first step to really try to immerse yourself and look around and get experience with what it's like to run a dental business, which is different from what you learned in dental school, as we all know. And in the best case scenario, sometimes those jobs can lead to partnerships in the future, or even the opportunity to buy and own that practice at some point. So that's the great, the beginning to your dental business journey.
Awesome. We have time for Q&As with our team here too. But Rob, I don't need to worry about a restrictive covenant because they're not, right? They're not enforceable. You don't need to enforce a restrictive covenant. They just put them in for show, right?
That's, Paul, that makes me cringe. So yeah, the downside, what you have to look out for, be careful about, are restrictive covenants, and really restrictive covenants that are overly broad or overly restrictive. A lot of times people go into jobs and think, well, if I don't like this job, I'll just find a job someplace else, because most people do need to work. But when you agree to a non-compete or a non-solicitation, you are limiting where you can and how you can practice in the future. And if your job doesn't work out, that non-compete is going to be pulled out of the filing cabinet and scrutinized and evaluated. You really have to be careful about that. And as you said, Paul, that whole thing where you don't have to worry about non-competes because they're not enforceable, right? When I see those on blogs and Facebook groups and people say that, I want to scream, because they do matter. Even in order to find out whether or not a non-compete is enforceable, that means that there was a trial. And to get to a trial, that means a lawsuit was filed, depositions were taken, possibly 6 figures in legal fees have been spent to find out whether or not that agreement is enforceable. I'll tell you, it doesn't matter whether it's enforceable. And even if you do win 2 years down the road, no banks are going to lend you money to buy a practice or to do a startup in the area where you're restricted. So you have 2 choices. You can either litigate with your millionaire former employer to see whether or not you're allowed, or just be more careful when you sign them in the first place.
Love that. So unlike 2016 with Villanova, where there was a clear-cut winner when they made that shot from half court, there are no winners when you litigate a restrictive covenant, I would say. Rob, great. Let's go to Bill and Jared. I also want to say Guac with Dr. Nacho is sponsored by Alvez's Original Guac, which I had to pay for because they're not a sponsor. But if anyone knows the people at Steven Starr, maybe they would want to sponsor. So I'm sponsoring my own thing. I'm a sponsor of the sponsor. All right, Bill and Jared, you guys, one of you guys take that, and the other one will be the positive one. So
you got it. We're gonna kind of ping pong this back and forth. So I'll take the first good here. So I love Rob's, and I agree with those. I think I go back to when I was a senior in college as getting my accounting degree, and I was so ready to get out of there that I had offers coming in, and I found the biggest firm with the biggest money, the biggest paycheck. And I think Jared kind of talked to some of the bad things you do when you kind of have your eyes focused on the wrong thing. I look at the opportunity out there and say, man, if you're at this stage of your career and you're not locked down and you're willing to be flexible and nimble, you can be pretty selective and find an opportunity that's perfect for you. An opportunity that is in a practice that's doing what you really want to do, that you don't have the skill set, that you can learn, that you can try to be developed, that you can have a mentor, somebody's going to come and actually invest in you and try to make you better. And at the end of the day, it's that crying inside. I mean, literally, you can find yourself in a job where you are crying inside on the way to your office, or you can find a job where you're pumped and excited and ready to go. So I think the opportunity is just don't lock yourself into a box of looking for the biggest paycheck necessarily, or a certain area. Just keep your options open. You never know. You may find that perfect job just somewhere else.
Some golden nachos there. Geographic flexibility will expand your opportunities. So that's just the reality of dentistry. We have Dentist Job Connect, where we match make people for jobs. The more geographic flexibility you have, the better. All right, Jared, give us a possible pain point.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. So exactly, I agree with Rob 100%. Is now the time to make money, but I say a potential challenge or a pain point here is a lot of people just jump off and try to find the most high paying job. they've got high student loan debts and they're like, man, I got to go make as much as possible as I got to pay loans off, live, etc. And that's part of it, money is, but don't let the student loan repayment tail, if you will, wag the dog. Don't just try to find the most. Think about other things that go into that. What's the potential upside? Who are you working for, like Bill said, that can mentor you, teach you the technical skills, start teaching you the business principles of dentistry. If you're going to be a dental practice owner, think about that. Don't let it, the money, it's big, don't get me wrong, but don't let it be the first factor you take into consideration. Let it go further down the ladder and put those other things ahead of that. And I think people get those reversed. They're trying to go find the biggest package.
Those are good points. And, we did number one, finding your first job. Okay, finding your first job and money and morale. I've been talking all morning about how you have to balance money and morale. Okay, can't mean you don't need more money at the expense of morale, because then you can't help anyone. But sometimes chasing money can really hurt your morale. I also, Rob, my team is too young. Yesterday I said I want them to share that they have to Bart Simpson this for us. I will not sign a contract in dentistry without consulting an attorney first. And they didn't know what Bart Simpson was, but in the beginning of the thing, he wrote on the board, because there are many people that I deal with, crying inside and outside, that if they had somebody, an advisor, review what they were going to sign before they signed it, they would have said, great, sign it, looks great, or there's 15 red flags. Now, Rob, let's move to a topic near and dear to your heart, buying your first dental practice. Give me a positive point and a watch out for burning your nachos point.
Hey, the ability to own your professional practice and practice your profession where you want, how you want, when you want, is one of the most awesome things about being a professional. I have a small professional practice myself. I can't tell you that every day is a walk in the park, but it's a great thing, though, to have that kind of freedom and flexibility and control over your vision and your place in the profession.
Love that. Tell us now. Well, I'll go. Let me take a positive from Team Dental Focused Accountant first.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. I think right now, Rob, you're 100% spot on. Owning that practice is like the objective for most people, getting that business ownership hat on. And I think right now there's a lot of opportunities out there. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities, especially going through COVID. You've got, I'm going to say, is it the retired age dentists, your RADs that are kind of getting through COVID? They're like, you know what, I'm done. And so they're really putting those things on the market. And there's a lot of opportunity to get a deal out there, find something that has a value add and kind of get your hands on it now.
Love that. But what if buying the practice was like a slam dunk? How come sometimes people just totally miss it, right? Got all kinds of props here. So we'll go with Rob. Where are some real, I always say buying your first practice is the most important decision of your entire life. All of us work with people in the circle of dentistry life. Some things happen in life that are not controllable. Injury, death, problems. Some things happen that might be controllable, divorce. But I have seen dentists at the end of their career have multiple houses, multiple spouses, still that one practice. So it's so serious. Rob, where can you burn your nachos or feel like Mr. Grumbly in the purchase of a practice?
Hey, yeah, Paul, I mean, this is career defining. This is going to define your career and your life, and really in so many ways. And it's a very, very important decision. I want to talk just briefly. Well, let me say before I tell you what I'm seeing more recently, but all deals are not the same. And I think that's really important to know in any respect, whether you're looking at an associate agreement as an associate, you're looking at a lease, you're looking at a practice buy-in or a purchase. Just because something that a friend of yours did was similar doesn't mean that your deal is the same. So for us, every deal is different. You have to roll up your sleeves. You have to understand what's going on. You have to see where the problems are and the potential issues are, so that there are no surprises after you buy the practice. And for us, that's really the goal. We can advise clients and tell them it's a good idea to do something or not, but and ultimately they make the decision. But we like for people to go away from our office knowing that if there are any potential issues out there, they've been advised on that and they're ready for it if it comes up. So where I see, I think people kind of going astray recently is in the area of partnerships with large corporate groups and DSOs, where people think, hey, I'm going to be a partner in this practice. I'm going to own 25% of this practice. And that's the same thing as being a partner in a dental practice anywhere. But then in reality, they've just bought themselves a job, essentially. And what I mean by that is they've agreed to be the dentist or a dentist in this large corporately owned practice. They may get some money from it, but they'll never have the control. They'll never have the ability to imprint their vision on the practice. And for that 25% or so interest that they will have a very hefty restrictive covenant that will really prevent them from leaving. So really, in some respects, it's the anti-practice ownership with a deal like that you're really just handcuffing yourself to that practice.
I like that, Rob. Some of it I'll describe, just to break it down for dentists, is sometimes all of the risk, only some of the reward, right? Mm-hmm. All of the risk, sometimes a 20%. Sometimes I know people like to show billions. I love it, right? But we're not all hedged. 20% of a solo dental practice, it can come with a lot more headaches than upside. And I'm a dental practitioner myself. Great. Bill and Jared, tell us yours on this one, buying your first practice.
Yeah, I love that, Rob. And actually, I'm going to kind of go back to a conversation, we've had with you, Rob, in the past too, is that it is so easy. And I'm guilty of this when I kind of jump from the big firm to a small firm, is falling in love with a practice, in my case, a firm that, to be honest, just wasn't right. It wasn't the right one. It didn't make sense. Financially, it didn't make sense. Culture, it didn't make sense. People didn't make, everything, all those systems that you talk about, there's no systems, right? There's nothing, there's no structure to it. It's just a bad situation, but man, we want it. It's like buying a car. You go buy a car and you leave off, it's all psychology, right? It starts getting in your head, this little worm that just burrows in your brain and you're like, man, I gotta have it. There's probably 2 or 3 other people wanting to buy it. And I think Rob is a perfect example. A person said, just raise 10,000 feet up and look down at this practice. Is it right? And if it's not right, move on.
Yeah.
And find one that is, because they're out there. Just like Jared said, they're out there. You just got to be patient, not fall in love with them, and look at them as objectively as you can and get help. People like Rob can change your world on that.
Yeah, there'll be another one that comes by.
Things there with this, but like, I made this joke. Todd Fleischman, Rob said he did a case and maybe he would be considered a well-paid attorney, an hourly wage. I said, unless legal pads go up to the price of gloves, the overhead on running a dental practice is very different than running an accounting firm or law firm. So you have got a lot of things. You're, as the dental practice, think of this weight that's attached to you with equipment and people and things like that. So, that's why it's even more of an important decision, because there's so many physical things that have to be unwound to the dental practice. And you guys have kind of this, maybe we'll call it pandemic chic way of operating, right? Accountants and attorneys can operate in a mobile fashion. Dentists, we're still face-to-face people, which comes with good parts, but be aware. Perfect. Let's move to hiring your first associate. So I'm going to play this role. Hey guys, I do like $900,000 a year. I'm making $300,000 a year. I'm busy. I'm so busy. I want to hire an associate. Because I want to, not be as busy and have someone work, and I'll probably make a little extra money in the process. Show me where. I'll start with you, Bill. Where is that? You could pick positive or pain with this, hiring your first associate.
Okay, so this is probably my favorite question on here, because I think this is one of the ones that people don't realize. This could shoot you off on a trajectory on your entrepreneurial journey that you don't even realize. So how I would look at that is hire an associate, okay, to what end? If your ultimate objective is to find freedom, however you define it, we have a good mutual friend, David Phelps, who has a very specific definition. Others define it, but a lot of people define it as time. And so that's time for what? Well, it could be time for family. It could be time for vacations. It could be time to focus on the business. It could be any number of things, right? So you hire an associate, okay, and you bring him in, and the intent is to create freedom for you. To me, I think that's a huge component of you getting on the journey to maybe being able to step away from the chair. And if you're not, you looking at associate as an opportunity for you as the doctor to step away from the chair and do other things that are going to slowly kind of work your way from a technician to an entrepreneur to maybe even an investor somewhere down the road, then I think you might be looking at an associate wrong. But if you can kind of look at it as a way to free your time up and get where you're not stuck having to do all the work and getting away from just having a job, like Rob says, that to me is the opportunity. But you have to look at it that way.
That's a good positive point, which is a realistic one. If you guys want to talk the dental lingo with your clients, one time be like, oh, you want to get an associate so you can share the joy of full contact arts and crafts on people who don't want to be there, because that's what being a dentist is. So sometimes us who've been doing this 18 years are just doing so much full contact arts and crafts on people that we will do anything to share that responsibility with someone, even if it comes at a cost. So great.
Well, let me put it this way real quick. So let's say I'm an accountant. have to come here and do taxes, right? In my mind, I've always thought I got to be at my chair doing taxes. Well, maybe that's not the kind of accounting I want to do. Maybe I can do advisory so I can actually be in Colorado in my airstream hanging out, helping clients there. Well, dentist is tough, right? It's full contact. But maybe that's if you continue to be a technician your entire career. Maybe that's not the journey for you. Maybe the journey is to get where you have multiple practice and you can become more of an owner/investor. So, don't lock yourselves into these boxes of what you can or cannot do based upon the fact that you got to be stuck by the chair. A lot of associates out there are more than happy to do that for you if you'll just let them.
Share the drill. Rob, I'll go to you next. Give us a hiring your first associate positive opportunity.
Okay, I request Paul to be able to say the positive and the negative because it's all kind of the same thing.
I like it. Two sides of the same coin.
The positive is, increased revenue, maybe, increased profitability, hopefully, and someone to share some of the burden with. The bad could be no increased revenue and less profitability and more Prilosec.
Like that.
For me, I think people need to be realistic with what hiring an associate means. The day that you hire that associate, the pie is only so big. The day after you hired that associate, the pie didn't get any bigger.
I'm going to use an example, right? Because here it is, Rob. These are the chips from Alves. You have a practice. There's no magic that makes it like this. It's still this. There's no magic to this. This is the big problem. You got to share these chips from this bag. If you don't want to share from this bag, no associate. If you want to share from this bag, associate. So I just want to do a visual here. It's performance art back here.
And I tell you, that's exactly, it's a great example, Paul. And I think, the other thing that from my experience and observation, a lot of times people also need to be realistic about what it means to have an additional associate if there is more production. If there's more profit, that's nice, but at what cost? Because as you expand the size of your business, I think it might be a little naive to think that it's going to free you up to do more things. If you are doubling the size of your dental office and the size, the amount of patients that you see, do not expect to have half the headaches. That's bad math, Paul. And even if you're bringing an associate on who's going to take some of the clinical burden off you, you have just increased your administrative burden. Not saying you shouldn't do it, but don't hire an associate thinking that you're going to work less. I think that's a mirage.
That's a really great golden nacho tip. Don't hire an associate thinking you're going to work less because your chair time can easily be replaced with management, administrative, and what I call answering 5,000 questions time. Whatever that is, whatever that category is, I do that a lot of, which I embrace, but it's a big part of it. Jared, I'll go to you on the associate front. Then we'll have our finale with the big selling of the practice.
Yeah, for sure. I'll piggyback off what you said, Rob. I think a great way to burn your nachos by hiring an associate is to go back to your example. You said, Paul, you got 900,000 in net production. You're making 300,000. You're like, God, let's go get an associate. And you don't run numbers or anything. You just do it because you feel it. You're like, I need somebody else to help. And then you do it too early. Let's say that example, you get up to $1 million, that associate's making X and you're making what you made minus X. And you're like, crap, this isn't what I wanted. It's because you didn't know it was the right time to hire that associate. You just did it because you felt it. And so that's one of the things we've actually got a calculator that we've built out that you can go look at to see, like, what's the break even? What's the upside down budget look like if I bring on an associate? Because you need to know those metrics and not just feel it to make a decision. Make a decision based on the numbers and where you want to go.
So key. We have a great Dentist Job Connect program. My team can drop that in the chat where we're connecting both dentists and associates for job. All right. So
hey,
we
Paul,
talk about, yeah, go
can
ahead.
I say something? Yeah. I mean, this is something you and I have talked about on our podcast a lot. And I have to give some cross-professional props to Bill and Jared here that, any decision you're going to make, whether you're hiring an associate, buying a practice, buying into a practice, you can quantify the risk there. You can do some hiring or pre-purchase due diligence to understand and have a good idea of what to anticipate. Where we see people come to us after they've made bad decisions across the board, when they tell me they're not making as much money as they thought they would, or it's impacted them in some negative economic way. And then I'll ask them what they thought, what their expectation was going into it. And they'll tell me, and I'll say, did you work with a CPA to help you with the projections and the cash flow of that decision? And they'll say no. And if you're not working with a good CPA that's doing what Jared is talking about to try to quantify this so that you can make a good decision, then folks, you are just picking what's behind door number 2. And don't be surprised when you don't like what's behind door number 2.
Yeah, math is currently pretty undefeated in most things, and I share this with this. There was a great Seinfeld episode where George wanted to be the pick players for the Yankees, and Jerry said, "I think they give that to ex-ball players." He said that wasn't very fair. I mean, these are jobs where you can't pretend to do this other job while you're doing this job. Bill, Jared, and Rob, I'm going to organize Dennis Fantasy Camp one day for them all to do a filling, so they have a newfound respect for what we do all the time. But they're not trying to do random deals at number 15. So it's probably not the best time for you to try to figure out EBITDA or contract. So let's wrap up with this. So I'm going to give a lecture after this from treatment plan your life for happiness, from dental school acceptance to your RAD day, retired age dentist day. So the fourth thing is selling your dental practice. And let's just go with the traditional version for the time being. You can add in DSO, but think about selling and retiring from dentistry, 6 months, things like that. Tell us about where there's some good opportunity for dentists watching this saying, I want to sell my dental practice in the next few years, including all buyers, and then also where there's some risk in there. I'll let Rob kick us off with that.
Sure.
I mean, wrap up for both sides.
So the obvious is this is a great way to monetize this investment of what you've built. You've got more time to spend money, invest money, play more golf, less Prilosec. But I would say too, from a seller standpoint, at the early start of COVID, I thought, well, that's it. This is, we're really looking at a change from a seller's market to a buyer's market. And that hasn't happened. There's still great opportunities. There are lots of buyers, owner operators, private equity backed, DSOs, all sorts of folks out there that want to get into the dental practice ownership world. So it remains a really awesome time to sell your practice. There's still lenders that are lending like they were, or more than before COVID, that are willing to finance this and create a very liquid market. So the opportunities there to maximize the value of your practice in a transition are as good as they've ever been.
Awesome. That's great. I'll let you do because we're going to wrap up for our 2 p.m. So you do your risk. Then you say, okay, great. A seller's sitting there thinking, Dr. Salsa seller's thinking, good, but what do I need to be aware of? What's an actual thing I got to watch out for this in this process?
Yeah, absolutely. And let's stick with the big corporate deals and the DSOs. I think that this is a great example of just because there's a label on the deal, I'm selling my practice to a DSO, does not mean that all deals are created equally. And we've seen a lot of instances where people are doing deals that are just so economically bad for them. And in this setting, what I see that people need to understand, and this doesn't mean you don't do the deal, but you understand what's going on. If you are selling your practice, let's just use some real easy math, for $1 million to a big DSO, and you have to stay on for 3 years after you sell. And if you're making $350,000 less a year as an associate than you were as an owner getting profit, after that 3 years, that has cost you $950,000. Now you still, I'm sorry, 350, my example, it's bad, $1,050,000. So in that scenario, you've actually lost money by selling your practice, right? The DSO has used your money to buy your practice. Now, some people may have a compelling reason to want to sell, but you need to understand the dynamics of that. Just because $1 million hit your bank account doesn't mean that there's going to be lost opportunity and lost revenue during the time that you're still contractually obligated to provide services to those people.
I like that. Since Rob is my close friend, podcast partner, Dental Nacho supporter, and advisor, we get to legally share jokes. And I don't know whose this is, but dental offices are people places, not pizza places. And that's seller, you got to look at yourself as a person and say, what fits into my life situation? But if it's motivated by money, something we said, sometimes it's the exact opposite of what you think. Bill and Jared, I'll go with you guys.
Yeah, I'll jump in there real fast. So I think, positive opportunity. I'll say exactly what you said, Rob. I mean, it's a seller's market. You can get, right now, you can maximize most people's biggest asset right now. And because there's people out there that will pay good money for it. And interest rates low, that's going to allow the potential buyer to jump in and get it at a good price. So I would just say the opportunity out there right now to sell your practice is great and achieve exactly what you set out to do.
Awesome. Bill, tell us what people should look out for. Mister, you only get one shot at this. Rob, sorry if I have to show this again. I think I did, right? It was the last shot for Villanova before we jump off where they won. So it's the final shot. Sorry, Rob. Mark, I thought they were going to do it with Mark Bacon, Shaking, Making, but they didn't. Mark, they didn't do it, right? I love Cheney. But Villanova, you got your one shot. So how do you not mess up this one shot? It's so key. It can mess up so many things. How do you avoid this? Bill, let's do that. Then I'm going to ask you guys all how we reach out to you after that. But Bill, tell us here.
Yeah, Rob took the DSO route. I'm going to take the traditional route. You're selling to another dentist. I think you just do it too soon or you're not ready. You've kind of had a dip or COVID's beating you down and your numbers are terrible. Your valuation's low. You're burned out. You're just ready to move on. And we've had those conversations and we've seen that with purchasing, young dentists who are looking to purchase and really there's no value to the practice at all, except for maybe a little blue sky. And how much is that worth? Well, you got to find the right buyer and then you got to hope the bank will finance it. So too often people don't give enough of a runway to get their practice ready for sale, to get the numbers looking good, to get everything dialed in, get the team members right. If you do that, I think you can find yourself getting that value up a little bit.
Awesome, guys. Well, you guys shared so much great value. I appreciate you guys being on the Dentisting basketball team. You guys can fight over who's power forward, who's 7 feet and shoots threes. But just share with us. You guys are awesome friends, sponsors, collaborators, everything on our Nacho plate. Someone's watching this now or in the future, when it goes viral tomorrow with 2 million views. I don't know how we're going to do that, but somehow we will. How can they reach out to you to connect with you? Rob, dental focused attorney, how can they reach out to your group?
The best way to find us and connect with us is just to go to our website, yourdentallawyer.com. We have got some good resources there, some podcasts and webinars and articles and all of our contact information.
Awesome. You can also email salsa@dentalnachos.com for a TLC connection. Bill and Jared, how can people reach out to you guys?
Yeah, same way. I mean, the easiest way to do it is go to our website, ducketlad.com. We've got a white paper out there right now. I'll share the link or the URL here, but 5 things that you didn't learn in dental school that you need to know. And basically, if you go out to a link, and I'll just share it real fast. I'll go Nacho style with a piece of paper.
I like that. Yeah.
Go to bit.ly/DL5 things.
Nacho team put everything in the chat too. I like that. Well, you guys, I appreciate you jumping on a busy day. Sorry we can't share guac in person, but we will next year when we all get together for this.
Making me hungry.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, guys. This was so helpful. We had over 300 people watching in. We're going to share this people after this. So thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Got
Paul.
it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, Nacho team, we're going to do a quick commercial. I'll put us there. We'll be back in just about 10 minutes with our next segment. Thanks, everybody.